Hello, my name is David, and I am a Germanic heathen. Now, I would like to explain to you what heathenry is. And although it has many definitions, I can break it down for you in the most simplest of ways. Heathenry, to put it bluntly, in the modern day, is the reconstruction of the ancient Germanic religion practiced by the ancient Germanic tribes. The Germanic tribes were a set of tribes located in the Germanic area, north of Italy in Germany, and spread about all across from Germany all the way down into Turkey and up eventually into the British Isles. These people are the ancient ancestors of the modern day Norwegians, Swedes, Danes, English people, Dutch, Germans of course, and especially some people within Italy and Scotland and Ireland as well have some Germanic ancestry. To be a modern day heathen is to venerate or worship the ancient ancestral gods of this tradition that was around and up until 1,000 years ago, until the Germanic peoples were converted. These are the modern peoples of the English, like I said before. So these would be the gods of the English, the gods of the Norwegians, the gods of the Swedes. That has been popularized recently by Marvel Media. Just gonna hold a long pause there, But these include gods such as Odin, Thor, Tyr, Freyr, Freya, Balder, and many more. Most of these gods, of course, represent various cycles of nature and parts of nature, as well as containing a spiritual element within them. Now, there are many books and records we can get that contain the ancient legends and sources from which we reconstruct modern heathenry. Now, there are two types of modern heathenry. There is heathenry, right, where you reconstruct the religion back from the sources itself and try to make it as historically accurate as possible. Or there is the modern heathenry with things like Ausatru, Vanatru, Thursatru, where they incorporate modern elements, New Age elements, Wiccan elements, and other things like that to make it more modern. Now, we get the word heathen from Hearthan meaning hearth on the countryside. These were the people who lived in the countryside. This is where also we get the same word pagan from. Pagan and heathen are synonymous, right? So when you hear somebody called a pagan or a heathen, whether by Christians calling people heathens or pagans, people identifying as pagans or heathens, they are identifying actually as those who live in the countryside. Another word that's famous for this, you might have heard of, is Gentile. Gentile meaning ethnos, or nation, or kindred people. These are the folk who live in the country away from the cities. Because during the era of Christianization, during the late Roman Empire, and during the early Middle Ages, the peoples in the cities were converted to Christianity and had looked upon the country people as being dumb, being ignorant, and so the word paganus and heathen, were looked upon as lower, right? So to be a heathen now is to be a polytheistic, being multiple gods, such as Odin, Thor, and Tyr, as I explained before. Being animistic, being able to see the world as alive. See, another component of heathenry is an animistic worldview. Without the animistic worldview, heathenry doesn't work. The modern religion of heathenry, also called Norse paganism, doesn't work. Because if you look outside and everything is alive, literally, the trees, the grass, the animals, the bugs, the fish, everything. You just extend that to all of nature. This is where you get the concept of land spirits, for house spirits, mountain spirits. These are spirits that dwelled within the countryside. This is why heathens lived in the countryside. Now, while you can be a heathen living in a city, and I do live in a city, you must always get into nature to connect with where the gods and the spirits are. Now, there are two groupings of gods within heathenry. There is the Aesir, the ones who live in the sky. These are people like Odin, Thor, Tyr, Balder. And then there's the Vanir, those who are connected to the earth and to fertility, and to the more animal side of things is Freyr, Freya, and Njord. Njord is being the sea god, and Freya and Frey being the divine masculine and divine feminine. And so there are many different forms of heathenry that currently exist. There being Ausatru, which is an Icelandic revival that took place in the 60s, which practices a form of Norse paganism. There is Fernsidu, which is Anglo-Saxon English, Old English paganism from the 500s before they were Christianized. There's also general all-around heathenry, which tries to make a coherent system out of all these things, takes inspiration from all these things. Another component of heathenry is Ancestor Veneration. Ancestor Veneration being very, very important to the ancient Germanic peoples. This is not to say that anybody who doesn't have specific ancestors can practice or can't practice. It is just the aspect of venerating your own ancestors was very important to the ancient Germanic peoples. Now, if you take a close look at heathenry, if you think about this, heathenry is what I just described to you, this animistic religion with multiple gods and goddesses, this ancestor veneration, the veneration of land spirits, these basic components of the religion is very similar to other religions. Very similar to other religions. You'll notice, if you have any familiarity with Japan at all, you will notice this can be very similar to the practice of Shinto, the practice of African indigenous religions, the practice of Native American indigenous religions, Chinese folk religion, folk Taoism. You see, every single nation across the face of the earth, I don't care who you are, any ants, I don't care, every single one had a folk religion, a religion that came from them, that had the very same basic components: animism, polytheism, ancestor veneration, the use of shamanism and altered states of consciousness to reach and talk to these certain spirits. Heathenry, you can go over to see my shrine right here. Heathenry is simply the practice of the shamanic religion that came from the ancient Germanic peoples that was wiped out during Christianization and has begun a revival since the at least late 1800s, but the better version, the 60s, okay? The late 60s is when this began to be revived, okay? So, to put it all back into conclusion, heathenry is simply the revival, reconstruction, and practice of the ancient Germanic religion, the peoples of England, Norway, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, the Netherlands, the parts of Italy, the Lombards, parts of northern Spain, that sort of area, the Vikings, right? This is their religion being revived to this day, right? Being rebuilt through the old sources. We have tons of books and sources, much more than we thought we had before, and this is what heathenry is. So, thank you for watching this video. I hope I did a good job of explaining the basic concepts of heathenry, and I hope to see you guys next time. What's hell?